Oh, we're actually live. How you doing, people? I've been trying to get this thing on for a minute. It's acting like it just wants to give me a warm time. How's everyone doing? How is everyone doing? Everyone's doing Irie. Hope you've had a positive day, and I pray that iPath has been productive today. It's been a very interesting day for myself. Let's get some music going. I always got to get the background music going. Uh, Where's my playlist? Where's my playlist? Let's have a look now. No, not that one. Mm, No, not that one. Not that one. Not that one. There it is. That one. Da-da-da. And we welcome to the floor. Ain Sof. ISOLT. Light technology. How about thou? How about thou? Bringing him to the floor.
Oh, uh, okay, so how do I get this right now?
Turn the phone the other way. I don't know if you got
See,
something
that's
to hold it on.
the problem having it
Uh,
that way. And someone told me last week, why were you the other way? And I said, that's the best way I can hook it up. Hang on, because I've got the charger in to make sure it doesn't lock out. Oh,
yeah, yeah.
there
That's the
we
normal
go, there
way.
we go.
How about now?
I'm good actually. Yeah, I'm good.
You're
Yeah.
good. Welcome, Aquaba, forward to the live. Thank you for educating us for the last
Mhm.
2, 3 weeks. I would say certainly has been an interesting time. I'm just gonna turn off commenting so we can see you for a little bit. There is a secret to this, right? If you press the camera button, it just does
Right.
that, and then you don't have to worry about the position of the phone and the camera and all of that stuff,
Well,
which you don't want. Some people
well,
just do that.
it's in place now, so I'll leave it where it is. Don't want to mess with it.
That's true. That's true. So I'm just gonna send out a couple invites to a few people and get them to come join us on the live. Um, so you said, yeah, interesting day
Well,
today.
well, hmm. Okay. Every day there's a few revelations, I would say. But
Mhm.
I was in work, so when I say
Okay,
in
okay.
work, though, I mean I walked to my table and log on. So
I hear you. I hear you.
yeah, so no, it's been an interesting since February. It's been very interesting because it's like I'm being made to do all this stuff, but to stay still at the same
Mhm.
time. So yeah,
Ah,
so to stay still and get all this stuff done as well. So it's been
bit of a difficult
well,
conundrum.
well, actually, no, because in the stillness,
Mhm.
the energy can flow freely for you to connect with whoever you need to connect with, to get jobs done. And
Mhm.
and in that stillness, a lot of times things come to you rather than you running around. Like somebody will pop up and go, "Okay, yeah, I can do that. I can sort that out for you." So. So, you know, I think again, this is a part of our programming.
Mhm.
You're trained to, yeah, you got to get out there and work until you drop. But there's a balance
Mhm.
in that. Yes, we have to do sometimes, but the frequency that you're resonating at will draw the people that you
Mhm.
need, and then you do whatever you need to do. So so
Yeah.
in truth, you don't always have to be running around up and down doing stuff.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that. Well, I believe that. I know that's for true. I was in a very precarious court proceeding a few years ago, and the person, my co-litigant, because we were representing ourselves, didn't have any lawyers. Well, for the lawyers that we did end up, trying to connect with, we ended up just representing ourselves. And she was instructed to be still, which I think she found very difficult at the time. But I recognized the instructions like, okay, this is and it was for myself, I had to be still because I had to listen. I had to listen to the guidance to help get us through the case. When one's not still, it becomes difficult. And one's not, it becomes difficult because how could I explain it? When you're not listening to self and you're letting the outside world influence you, and it influences your choices, which is where they say learned behavior. So it was quite a deep learning curve for myself. I had to learn computer sciences and legalese in my first year of university. So I'm having to do all these assignments and do this court case at the same time, and it was just like, but I think the assignments helped me to actually put the court case together, which was quite interesting.
Well, we don't actually realise how our choices in what we do, what we do are thoroughly sort of like integrated and connected with each other, and I think it's only until we look back then we realise, oh well, actually, whilst I was struggling and thinking that these were two separate things, these are, I don't know, the same, part of the same like side of the coin at that time. So, because at the end of the day, we're trained to separate things, and rather than see things as a holistic whole picture, we always just cut out the little parts, and then really they have no context by themselves. So, it's just all these indoctrinations that we kind of like being indoctrinated into. So that we've got to start
the school indoctrinations, the social indoctrinations, and all of these things that just distract us from self and self-focus.
Yeah. So we have to go through a real debugging kind of like program, and the thing about it, the worst thing that we hate is change. Change. Oh my god.
No, I don't want to taste nothing different. And then as soon as you taste the new food, you're like, oh my god, it was amazing.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, I've seen it so many times. Sorry, I'm just adjusting my camera here.
Yeah, it's just getting people to drink so they can know.
Go. Oh, yeah, I will bring you to the water, but I can't force you to drink the water. It doesn't work like that. It's you have to want to drink the water yourself, and that's the truth. I have a lot of young ones. Well, I say young ones like I'm old. A lot of people that I assist through life, and it kind of almost always comes down to that point where I'll be like, hey, look, this will help you, and they're resisting and they're fighting and they're giving every excuse, and it's like, oh my gosh. But then myself, I go through it myself too. It's one of the Rattle Nefer Amen did say that. He's like, why is it that you're everybody else's best psychologist but not your own?
And I suppose that's for a reason. That's why I suppose you've got people who can come in and reflect you so that you can see it clear.
I think that's mentors, one of the biggest jobs in England that doesn't, underrated but well needed. Everyone has a mentor. The rich have mentors, guys who are making millions and billions. They have mentors, people guiding them and helping them to make the right choices through what they're doing. And you're like, but you're a billionaire. Well, that's how I got there, with the help.
Well,
It's quite
Yeah, well, there
interesting.
may be a billionaire, but it depends where your priorities land and
I would,
how they got to be a
yes,
billionaire.
yes, I argued that one. I argue that one all the time, especially for the sisters, for the ladies, because you know, for a man, we're driven with this narrative. You've got to get the bag before you get the
Mhm.
lady.
You've got to get what? You've got to get
What?
what?
The bag.
Back.
The bag means that, you know, lots of money. Yeah, the financial security and all it. So I'm like, so what process whilst the man's going through this, you know, progression to get to financial security, does he learn to trust? Because I'm gonna go make all of this money by myself with no support, with no help, with, you know, nothing. And then so when I get there, now I've got all of this money, but you didn't help me to get there. So now the argument comes up. What are you bringing to the table? Whoa, this, you know, it's the root of this argument is this basis. You know, what are you
No,
bringing
no,
into the
no,
table is
no.
what the men ask the women, and it's so
You've gone
feisty.
off key because at the end of the day,
Hmm.
I don't know which woman you're trying to target. If it's earning money, so let's get on with the program.
Well, the topic today is evolved earth and soul. So, you know, part of the evolution here. Build together, people, build together. It's the only way we got societies, it's the only way we got civilization by men and women building together from the ground up, from the foundation up. And we need that in this generation, most certainly. Collectiveness. Umoja.
Right.
So, evolved earth and technology. What have you got for us today? How should I address you today? Because I got a message from you earlier.
Yes.
So now I'm
So
like, ah!
yeah, so there has been a shift in frequency, and it's time coming. I mean, the shift happened a while ago, but I didn't catch up with it, and so I had to change the name, and so
Okay.
the I shouldn't say new name because this name was given to me about
But the true name,
yeah,
the true
it was
name.
given to me about 20 years ago, and again, remember it's a frequency, so I might not stay with that name. So in 20 years' time, it might
Hmm.
change to something else. So
Yeah.
I'm using the name Asta Ashana, and so that, yeah, so that's
Astonishing.
spelled ASTA hyphen Shana, so ASHANNA. And what that actually means
Okay.
is the first breath, the first consciousness, the first light. So that's the frequency that I need, and it's very interesting because when it was reiterated, you need to start using that. I was going through one of my processes. I call them processes, and energetically came through. Was Antarians. These are galactic beings, and then I started channeling that energy, and it was like they couldn't come any closer, or they couldn't do anything with me because my frequency still wasn't quite there in terms of what they wanted to do. And so the name
Hmm.
change would shift my frequency to enable me to communicate with kingdoms and different worlds if I'm going sort of like deeper. And so this all ties in
Yes.
with the third part of this series where we talk about Earth consciousness and the mind of Earth. And so
Hmm.
the so as we said last week and the week before when we spoke about the soul and the earth consciousness, it's all just frequencies of light, and so is
Yes.
the earth. Now, if you want to imagine, like the Earth has a neural pathway, a neural highways, which are crystallized lights, and so these highways are different path lines in Earth's consciousness, whole existence. And so what I mean by that, let's say, okay, one path line represents galactic consciousness, another path line represents Lemurian consciousness, there's another path line that represents Egypt and Atlantis and kind of like Roman periods and stuff. So these are all resonating at different frequencies, and they're all happening at the same time. So think is your neurons in your brain and your body, they're all working at the same time. But because of the frequency difference, we see them as a time lag or a time delay. So let's say, I don't know, these galactic frequencies are resonating really high. So they're described as being eons away from where we are.
From the now, for example.
But even though they are in the now, it's just their frequency is high. And so let's say time of Lemuria, that, you know, they're resonating at a certain frequency. So, you know, their time appears to be, you know, some distance away.
Distance away.
And then, you know, think about sort of like Atlantis and Kemetic times, and even this is coming more into the common areas like the Roman and Greek times, but also these path lines do kind of like overlap. So as one's shifting and the other one's coming in, they do overlap. Now imagine all those circuitries still there in the earth. So that means you can tap into any one of those at any time, because they're all and so through this consciousness, you can, through the consciousness of the earth, you can tap into these. So when you're thinking about the mind of earth, that's the type of consciousness that I'm talking about. And one of the things I'm going to mention is also the timelines that we're not aware about, because they've been totally excluded from history, primarily, and also because, you know, some of them are really ancient. Because you think about different epochs, one epoch will end, and then another one will be birthed. So let's say like an ice age or something like that. So data and information like that gets buried. But as we know from last week, if you're connected into the earth like the Aborigines and walk those grid lines or those neural highways, you will always be in connection with, you know, with the past, present, and future all at the same time, because you can connect in. So where you have that consciousness, we have to be able to utilize that consciousness to bring us back to source and bring us back to the nature of ourself. Now, you don't just access that type of consciousness, because in some of those realms and dimensions of the Earth's mind, some of them are so pure. If you go in there with one negative thought, you cause the whole thing to collapse. And so that's why. The way it works is through the alchemy of your consciousness. So like I said, you know, we could be in two situations. It could be the same situation, but we'd be having entirely different experiences depending on where our consciousness is. So the event really is to kind of like to highlight this alchemy, and that's beneath our feet, that we seem to pay little attention to, and also, you know, within the cosmos and within our own consciousness. And so one of the things that are taking place at the event is there's going to be a movement exercise, and this movement will help the body to adjust and to connect specifically with those earth lines, and specifically with the cosmos, and so bringing those together in body to be able to feel that type of alchemy that's needed or that's going on. Let me just give you a question that you asked about.
Okay.
No, I thought you wanted to ask a question, so.
No, I'm absorbing what you're saying, and it's just like, okay, all right, grasping. So the event now, initially, so what would it be in, what would be the name of that sub-event during the event that we're
Right. It's
having?
not a sub-event because initially I was going to break down kind of like the geometries and the consciousness of the soul and of the earth and stuff. And so I was going to do like a 45-minute talk on that. But I just thought, no. Best thing to do is to do the exercise so that they can feel that energy for themselves. And so I'm going to do a 15-minute talk, and then the lady who will be leading on that, Sandra, she's going to do that half-an-hour set in bringing alignment, in helping and supporting us to align. So to align the cosmic energies of the longest day or the solstice, and to connect with those energies within the earth, and that specific line that's coming through, which is an ancient Kemetic one, and also to connect with the elements and nature within that space of bringing it all together, so you can feel what conscious alchemy is like when you're in the space, not being distracted by other things. So don't get me wrong, it happens in reality, but when you're actually tuning into it, it's a better experience, or it's more of a collaboration rather than, it's active rather than passive.
Yeah. I think this is too loud. And what I might do, if you bring your volume down on your phone just a little bit, because then it'll drop the feedback just a little, and we should be okay. I can hear it just feeding back just a little bit. Work on that.
What about that? Does that work?
Yeah. That sounds cleaner. Yeah.
So and it's very important that we get to understand our own nature through practice, not through what I'm saying, but it is an alchemical process that is a transformation, because that's the only way we're going to really get the truth of the nature of Earth and what's contained in there. I mean, it's a bit like the Bible. They took out certain books because they didn't want us to see what was in those books. Well, it's the same with history. They're taking out certain parts of our histories and left all the warring, fighting parts as if warring and fighting is normal. They didn't leave any.
None of the good stuff.
So really, we need to connect into the good stuff for ourselves, so that we can experience that, not the warring part. And again, I'm not very biblical right now, but the Bible keeps coming up because it talks about the kingdom. But to get to the kingdom, you have to go through a process, don't you? And actually, it's an alchemical process that you have to go through.
So they leave little hints, but there's no direct, straight message. It's like interwoven in what do you call it, in code or in subliminal context. So you'd have to really, and then you'd also have to read the Bible not from a physical perspective, but from a metaphysical perspective to even grasp the message that is left in.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason for that, because the exoteric information is for everyday Joe Block. But if you want to go deeper, then there's esoteric information, and so as you grow and evolve as a being, you will recognize the esoteric information as you evolve. So then that allows you to go through doorways. That allows you to have a different type of understanding, a different type of perspective, and create a different type of reality. And so, to me, that's by design, because you have to go through a purification, a clearing, a changing, a transformation, in order to see what is your reality, or what can be your reality, or what's true, or what's real for you at that time in that consciousness. And so there has to be a shift. So a part of an alchemical process. Let me just give you an example. Let's say you've got self-worth issues. So you've got that's a frequency. So that's a frequency you're vibrating within your body. Okay. So what your higher self does, it will give you an opportunity to step through a doorway to clear that, for you to evolve and clear that. Let's call it an emotion of lack of self. What did I say? Lack of self-worth, didn't I? Yeah.
Lack of self-worth, lack of self-value.
So then, so in your life, there will be scenarios that play out, which is saying, okay, we know you fear that, we know you've got lack of self-worth. Step into that now and overcome it. And so let's say you do step through the door. So we're talking about the water and the horse. So let's say you do step through that door, and I don't know, say you wanted to master the piano, and you did lessons and you mastered it, and you got somewhere. Then don't you think your frequency is going to change, then?
Yeah, because you've mastered an instrument, and the piano itself, especially as a musician, you've evolved mentally because the hand-eye coordination, memorizing keys, notes, scales, and then putting it into a picture.
I just want to keep things simple, right? You did something that you thought you couldn't do. Yeah.
And now you've evolved. Now you've actually mentally evolved. You can remember all of these things, and you can play and entertain.
Yeah.
People.
So there is all that comes with it, but just keep it simple. Simple.
Yeah. So bring it back down to a simplicity.
The thing is that you did something that you thought you couldn't. So you've overcome a hurdle that you actually put in the way, but you wouldn't know whether you would overcome that hurdle unless you step through that doorway. Now the opposite is true as well, because you could have stepped through that doorway and did the piano lessons, and it didn't go well for you, it didn't work out how you felt that it should, but still there'll be a frequency shift, because first and foremost, you went through the doorway. And secondly, even though the outcome isn't what you thought it would be, I bet you would have probably learned why you couldn't play, or why you weren't deemed successful, and you would have learned something. And it might be even a case of, oh right, okay, you know what, I want to try that again and have another crack at it. Or it might be the case of, well, actually, it's not for me. It was just something in my head that I wanted to do that I thought I couldn't do. And okay, I couldn't do it, but I tried it, and actually, I don't want to do it. Type of thing. So again, there's still going to be a frequency shift. But if you never go through the door, there will never be a frequency shift. And so this is. This is what life gives us, the opportunities to work through all the things that don't really serve us, because most of them are just our mind, or what we've been taught, or what's been projected onto us. So So this is the alchemy of consciousness. It's not something you can just talk. You know what I mean? Talking. Whatever things, obstacles, understandings, or whatever you need, you have to go through that doorway, and make that shift of frequency. So then, so then that is your whole consciousness shifting.
Consciousness
Yeah.
itself.
So and so it is an alchemical process, and with that it covers all the planes. So it's happening on the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the physical. I won't say the physical, and
Spiritual.
what did I say? Spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical plane. And so
Yeah.
when it
Okay.
happens like that on all planes, that's a shift. That's a shift. That's an evolutionary shift. And so the reason I'm talking about that is because, as I said earlier, if we want to connect to our true nature, which is nature, we have to make these shifts in perceptions and ideologies and the way we're living our lives to come back to that state of, let's say, oneness, and back to our own state of balance and connecting with the soul. And so this event is really about incorporating those ideologies. So because this is a process whereby you have to practice. You go, I went to school for this. So I went to metaphysical schools and Mr. School. I practice every day because you're up against it. Because you're up against society, you're up against culture, you're up against religion, you're up against the way you've been educated, you're up against social media, you're up against all your friends that probably don't want you to move and want you to stay where you are.
Yeah.
So we're up against a lens. So unless you're able to turn your vision inwards and walk that path, you ain't got a chance, mate. you ain't got no chance. And the other thing that concerns me is that there are people out there who are having these experiences, and unfortunately they got no terms of reference for it. So that's messing them up, because at the end of the day, what our parents was like. If we said anything that was outside of what their normality, and so that leads to a lot of suppression. So in that, we need to find the space within so that we can know thyself from the inner perspective of self, not what Muta say or Benjamin say, or you know what I mean. You got people who put the whole every single Pan-African writer there is, and sometimes you have to go,
but you're not experiencing self. That's the thing, because oh yeah, my Muta said to do this and to eat like that. Okay, but the mind. What about the mind? Because I think, not to intersect there, but I think what most people. I'll give you an example. One of my favorite Dr. Sebi interviews, Electric Food. He was speaking specifically from a scientific perspective, and he said, "The mind. What is the mind? I don't know what it is. I cannot find it anywhere in the human body. Can you tell me where?" And he had a very good point, because what he was trying to separate what he, the path he had to go through. To be, he said, to be a healer, I don't have to know all of this science, but to be respected by society, I have to then, you have to attain the words which describes things. And here I had to learn biochemistry, if I'm loosely quoting what he said. But what I grasped from him, he was trying to explain that it's not that he disbelieves in the mind, but the subject of the mind didn't fit into the subject of the biochemical conversation, because it's not a biochemical thing in the physical realm. The mind creates the physical realm. So you have to go from the mind's perspective to the physical, whereas we're all going from a physical perspective towards the mind. There's a one of my elders in Jamaica, when I was roughly 17, he asked the question, are you a spiritual being having a physical experience, or a physical being having a spiritual experience? And I've seen that question come up quite a lot for the last few years on social media, maybe with a different twist to it, but it just always reminds me back to that question. And it's funny to see the answers from educated people, from spiritually enlightened people who were so deep into, you know, Islam, African Hebrew, Israelite, Christianity, all of these things. But when you ask them the question, they all say they are a physical being having a spiritual experience. And it's mind-blowing. It's like, really? Even with all of that knowledge, you still consider yourself a physical being having a spiritual experience. So you're not aware. And it's, you know, it's rather unfortunate. I would say it's sad in some senses, but it's unfortunate that they have this perspective.
Well, you know, in life, there's all perspectives, and you know, it's a part of the whole, because the way I see things, there's infinite possibilities, and so there's infinite perceptions and ideologies. So I try not to get caught up in that, and just focus on and what we need to do to grow and evolve and to understand ourselves. And you know, right about now, there is a shift on the planet, but also that shift is causing a level of destabilization as well, as people are probably not understanding where they need to be in that. And so my message is the only place you need to be is inside. And you need to be connecting with inside. And if you need some kind of verification and validation, that has to come from nature, because nature is your nature. And also, you know, your higher self will provide you with the exercises, the experiences for you to grow and for you to evolve. And so again, coming back to this conscious alchemy of working with earth and working with the soul, because this is where, you know, in my opinion, where our growth and understanding will come. And so going back to the earth's mind, let me give you let's see, what examples am I allowed to give? I should say.
God, we're not trying to give away too much tonight.
Well, you know, there's a lot of things that can't be said because you know, people you meet people where they are, basically. Right, okay, so when I talk about consciousness, because one of the things I said I'll talk about last week is the suppression of the consciousness. And you know, nearly all of us are not living in integrity with our soul because of distortion and manipulation and just complete distraction on whatever. And I'm not saying this from a perspective of, oh yeah, I've got it all, I'm in there, I'm a working process as well. And so Yeah,
on the
and
path.
I'll give an example of this. So I was at a particular site, and I was aware of other beings around me, but
Hmm.
but they couldn't connect with me at that time because I wasn't resonating at the correct frequency. So, like I said earlier, and I noticed that they were around me
Hmm.
for quite a long time, a month. And so, what I came to understand, the old consciousness of me literally said, literally said to me, "Aren't you going to let us go? We need to evolve as well." And they're waiting to come in. Yeah, they're
Okay.
waiting to come in. That energy is waiting to
Okay.
come in, and we're waiting for you to just let us go so that we can evolve. Because all consciousness is evolving and growing. Because you know, nothing, the nothing, no energy is ever created. It's never lost. Yeah, all that happens is transformed. So
Yeah.
remember, I
True.
talked
True.
about the self worth. That was a transformation of frequency. Yeah, so
Yeah.
energy is just always transforming and changing. Nothing's ever added and nothing's ever lost. And so even
Hmm.
um, consciousnesses that okay. I don't like to use the word lower, but are of a lower density. They want to evolve. They want to shift as well, and then new energies are waiting to
Hmm.
come in. So
Hmm.
so eventually that frequency was able to come through. Now these things are not orchestrated by me; they're orchestrated by my higher self. So this isn't something I'm aware of what's going on, but it's not something like that. I'll go, okay, Golda, you know, this is no. This is done by my higher self. So I'll give you another example. So there's a lady that I've known for a while. And so, again, this is about coding and understanding how consciousness and frequencies work. So, and she's very connected to the Orishas. But she says whenever she
Hmm.
sees them, they're far away. It's like she can't get to them. And I said, "Oh, okay." And then I remember she tottled away. She went in the sea because I was abroad at a conferencey thing, and she went in the sea. And then she come back 2 minutes later, and she says, "Can you speak your language? Because I think your language will help to free me." And I go, "Speak language." Because that ain't up to me. That just comes. That just comes when it comes.
And it wants to. Yeah.
When it comes.
Yeah.
And so I just looked at her, and then all of a sudden it flew out my mouth, and then she went like that, and she goes, "Oh, that's it," and I went, "Oh, okay," type of thing. So there was a coding that went on that allowed her to shift consciousness. And so she was
Hmm.
going to come to me because I could do it. So I'm there saying, "Well, what is it?"
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it happens. And so yeah,
This is happening. Yeah.
but because my soul knows, as long as I stay out the way, my soul knows, so it will
Yeah.
do it, and I'm just observing and going, okay, I know that, fine. But it's not something I could repeat. And
Yeah. So in other words, the ego. You have to let the ego stay here and then allow the higher consciousness, the higher self to do its divine
yeah,
task.
so
Yeah.
so I bring this
Okay.
up because we are not trained that way, and we are always trying to interfere because we think we know everything, and you know we think that we're in control.
I'm definitely guilty of that. I hold my hands up.
Yeah. You know, it's a co-creation that happens. It's a partnership. It's like the mother and the child type of
Hmm.
partnership. So I learned quickly on to because I was just nervous. I was going, okay, let me just watch this. Let me just watch what I'm doing because a lot of things that I do, I don't know what I'm doing. But then when I'm connecting it into my soul, yes, she knows exactly what she's what she's doing. So again, this is a part of the process of our evolution, because our souls are like a fractal of, let's say, source or God or whatever you want to call it. And so it's this powerful part of ourselves that we suppress and smother. And so again, it forms another lower level of disconnection. And so this constant disconnecting from, you know, from the soul and from the earth, which is, you know, intrinsically linked. Yeah.
Yeah. The true potential of oneself,
Yeah.
I would call it.
So we're always suppressing this, and again, this is all via design, because if you're somebody who's, you know, slightly different, got a slightly different perspective, you've got some gifts which people thinking, what's that type of thing, you could soon become ostracized, or they become fearful of you. And so this type of behavior and patterning has followed us down through the generations and throughout history. So I'm not going to talk about history, but the whole indoctrination thing.
Yeah.
And so this will always keep us in balance, unbalanced, I should say, in a state of suppression, in a state of not really wanting to know ourselves because we're scared of self. Because, you know, at the end of the day, we're scared of self. And the thing about it, what you're saying is, okay, you're scared of, I don't know, the god, the goddess, source, or whatever you want to call it. That's what you're literally doing, and you're pushing that down, you're suppressing that down. And this suppression is all causing all sorts of problems, because the suppression of our soul is the suppression of the earth soul as well. And, you know, it's very what's it called, say, telling when you look at the suppression of women. So, because that reflects the suppression of the earth in itself. And I always had this saying that if you can't recognize the face of your own mother, then you know you have no future. And so, and I was referring to the earth, because at the end of the day, she is a living.
It's the eternal mother.
A living consciousness, a living being, and okay, you disconnected from your source, you know, you cut that umbilical cord.
The umbilical cord. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
oh gosh, I was having a conversation about that earlier. Yeah.
So you're floating with no connection. So, you know, you're just taking on what people are telling you or feeding you, and not having that connection to the source of who you are, really, which is the earth, because it's the earth that gives us our everything, basically. I don't need to break it down. Everything, and so this is the importance of that kind of focus, and especially for the children, there should be like special schools whereby, you know, if they go to regular school, then they come home and then they get deprogrammed and attend a school that's going to manifest their potential rather than suppress that potential.
The only internet and video games and movies that are not helping, but distracting and blocking. Because there's a lot of subliminal messages.
But the problem is, I've got friends who have got children, and all they're on is their machine. They don't want to go outside. They don't want to connect with anything. They just on the machine constantly. And
Constant. It's like, what? You don't want to live? You don't want to go climb the trees or something? Like, what's going on?
yeah, so going back, that's what the event is really there to promote, and also it's a gathering of old souls. So those people who are connected to the Egyptian lineage and to the Kemetic lines,
Mm,
we work together on that line right here and now. So at the event it will be the same energetically.
mm. To the Kemet line timeline. So at the beginning, you were saying that, for example, the Lumerians would be on a different frequency, different compared to Kemet, and because today we're at a different frequency. I relate that to, for example, in music, you've got bass and you've got tops, for example. The speed, that sound wave, are two completely different speeds. A bass wave will be short, and the high one's going to be that. Is that the type of frequency that we're also is that how it
Yeah.
relates throughout the
Yes,
system then?
and then as you know in music you have some that overlap and
Mm,
overlays as well. So you can have frequencies within frequencies, worlds within worlds, dimensions within dimensions. So you can go on
mm-hmm.
for forever on that.
Okay, all right. And our evolved motion then. So because I want to, so I don't want to go too long tonight. I
Yeah.
know we've already fed everyone a lot, but we do want to, make sure we land. We've taken off. Make sure we land and everyone's had a
Hmm.
safe journey. Um, so in a sense, then the overall mission of not just for June the 20th, but having that as a priority date for what's
Yes.
happening now in Earth, in the process that we're going through now, all of these eruptions of fighting left, right, and center. It's all a breakdown of our consciousness. We're not conscious of self, so these things are happening rather than when we're all in that state of consciousness, or even a great number of us. It's easier to prevent these things from
Yeah.
happening. You know, I would say, as I was raised as a Christian, when my great grandma passed away, my mum stopped going to church, but then she started to go to the Hebrew Israelite meetings with Ben Ami, for example. Well, Ben Ami's people. And one thing they said about Yeshua was, he had a 30-foot rainbow halo around his head. And I talk to people about this all the time. Why did he have a 30-foot rainbow halo? Have you even
Mm.
heard of such a thing? Like that, that's massive, But learning from Hindu and yoga and from Buddhism and all of these other schools in Tai Chi, the seven chakras was when I learned about the chakras and the pineal gland, I automatically got the
Hmm.
answer. And I still haven't seen the answer presented to me from anyone in the outside world. So I'm having to now go and teach people, hey, look, this young man, he when he left Kemet, when his mother sent him away from Kemet because they was coming to unalive him, she sent him to the Himalayas, and he was around the Buddhists for those missing years of his life that we hear about. He mastered Zen. They actually write about him and say this youth was special. He mastered Zen. They said he's the next Buddha. So I look today and I'm like, we're missing that. We're missing that part of mastering Zen today and walking in our enlightened state. So when I say to my Christians, we're not behaving like Christ. Christ wasn't walking around Bible bashing. He was walking around healing and helping and teaching. And he wasn't chastising people, for example, and saying, oh, you're demonic. He was really just he was enlightening people, but because he himself was an enlightened person. He's not a Christian, by the way. By the way, from my perspective, he's not actually a Christian, but Christianity teaches us about this man. That's why we all tend to talk about him so much. The two great religions of the day talk about it. I
Well,
used to quite a lot.
I would
He's
intercede, and I says I don't know about great religions. Like you said,
yeah, great.
Christ wasn't a Christian; he was an alchemist. And so, you might as well just say that he's a magician. So, you know what I mean? And you know what happened to all the magicians and the witches and the this and that? They were crucified. So,
Crucified and burned at the stake and drowned in pools. Oh, she's a witch. And back to what you said earlier about women being suppressed in society. I found that it's.
I'm listening to you. I'm just going to
I've,
turn.
se-
I'm just
I've
going to turn
yeah.
the light on. Okay. I'm
No problem. No problem. I was already headed on that one. So I've seen it. Myself having lived in Jamaica, having spent so much time in New York. Being born here in England, and I see the similarities and the differences between the three regions. One of the great similarities is the suppression of women. In America, where women are very stand up and forward about about their civil rights and certain things, versus in Jamaica, where women are very protective of themselves and will become even bullies to survive. But they still have a lot of the old school, if you want to call it that, or the way how we were taught in Christianity and through Christianity. I want to be I want a husband, I want to have children, and I want to settle down in that direction. Versus England, where we've now got a new phase of, well, we're trying to find ourselves, but we're emulating Americans, we're emulating Jamaicans, we're emulating everything else, but England actually hasn't got its own specific culture that we could move forward to, because we don't have any sisters that we could go look back to in English past and say, she was enlightened, she definitely hit the Zen, and we can follow her path. And I think a lot of even with the boys in the world today that are becoming men, they're missing that. That's why they're going around these paths of becoming gangsters and gangbangers and so forward, because there aren't as men today, there is no exemplar. The very few good brothers that we do have, the very few enlightened brothers and sisters around the world, including yourself, that we do have, the media overwhelms that voice. The technologies of the design overwhelms those messages. So the messages don't get through. The message is there, the lessons are there, but we're all distracted. And the young men, the boys becoming men, again, the idea is you need to go get the bag. Go and get the bag. You're not a man until you've made money. You're workless because you ain't made no money. This is the narrative that society puts on us. So when someone does go on a spiritual path, it's like, yeah, I can't support you. I don't think I needed your support anyway, but thank you for letting me know. But we're scared. We don't know that we don't need our friends' support to walk this path, because we've been raised in this mind frame that, if my friends are on it, I'm not going to be on it. If my cousins are on it, they're all going to ostracize me, and I'm not going to be able to go and get something to eat or borrow some money, or they're not going to invite me out to the party. These are the thoughts and the fears that overwhelm a lot of the young men of today. And then, so even though you could cross them over and say, yes, there is that old school mentality in the boys as well. I actually want a wife. I want children. I want to settle down. Or, what? Them man, they were galley, so I'm just going to have a bag of galley. I don't care about pick the array. So there's a lot of intercrossing, and everyone's like, well, which one is it? Is it this way? Is it that way? You know what? There's all divorces. It's chaos. No silence. And it goes back to what you said earlier about being still. When most people hear be still, they think it's don't go outside, don't move. No, it's be still here. silent the thoughts and bring the mind to a stillness like water so that the messages can come through. I experienced a great stillness in a few years back, and it was an amazing place. It was such an amazing place, and so I'm devout to get back there. And I realized that when you get there, you're not supposed to come back down again. It's supposed to go in and go deeper and keep evolving forward, because that's the soul evolution. I was in that. I was in that place, man. I was literally homeless and broke. Go on. I'm sorry. I start shout out. And if I was hungry, all I had to do was think about it. Man, I want some food. And then as I met two steps, there's food being presented to me. Man, I need some money. And then as I met two more steps, there's a job opportunity or money being offered to me. Man, I need to get myself somewhere to live. And then an elder comes and says, you know, if you just go over that way and you do this and you do that, you will get yourself a place. I'm like, okay. Man, I need some clothes. And book, another job comes and I've got money now. I can go Primark or somewhere and get myself some clothes. Amazing place to be. Amazing place to be. But going back around, the people that did not need to go back around brought me down.
Right. Well, no, you
Experiencing.
can't disempower yourself like that. So it was your choice to go back around, and so you brought yourself down.
Yes.
And
yes. No, that's what I'm saying. But also the emotions, the choices that I made, because I was going to say that, you know, I went around, going around people that I didn't need to be around, because again, coming from where I'm coming from, it's like, oh, they're my family, they're my friends, I grew up with them. It's cool to be around them, rather than recognizing, no, you can let go now. You don't need to go back around them, and you don't need to go back into the club and party anymore. And you don't need. I wasn't paying attention to those things. I thought, I'm cool. I could do all of this stuff, and your frequencies are different. When you get there, you see light. The world becomes light for you. You look at the world and you don't just see a tree. It's like you can see the aura around the tree. Almost talk to it even in conscious state. And going around people that are not prepared or willing to go in that direction, you've got to. It was a hard lesson for me. It was a very, very hard lesson. And now I've lost that state of mind. I'm looking back and I'm reflecting and I'm like, wow. Just because of a choice, just because you made the choice, and even though your intuition was saying to you, don't go there, you don't need to, not listening to the self is a major letdown for everyone. So I think that's the real message that I wanted to really convey here. We listen to self, listen to that quiet little voice in the mind is so necessary for this evolution, because that's where the answer is.
Yeah, and yeah,
yes.
I was just going to add, because it's only through the higher senses that you can actually make sense of everything. So you know, that journey inwards is so profound. It's the most enlightening thing you'll ever do, because when you come to really start, and you know, I've been probably working at this for about 30 years, but I'm literally still starting. So you know, I had to do all that prep before I could even go. No, you know, there are people out there who you know can probably step in more easily. So I'm not saying it has to be that. That was just my journey.
Your journey, yes. 30 years ago, we didn't have this Instagram, YouTube, laptops, so it was a completely different social world back then. So you really started at a very prime time of evolution for the modern day. That's amazing. Wow.
There were people way before me as well in that. And then the other thing you mentioned was about the suppression, and you know, I talked about the suppression of women, but I didn't want to get the feeling that it was the suppression of women from a victim point of view, because the way I perceive it, it's women who give birth to children, and it's women who nurturing the children. Now, if these beings are being nurtured and they're turning out okay not to love their mothers, then we got to quite question, well, why is that? If they have no respect for their mothers, then why is that? And so we know again the wider context is society, but you know, you're with that child every day, managing that child. So what's going on in the psyche? And again, if the mother has self-worth issues, that's just going to potentiate that and keep that birthing. So I was looking at it more from the point of view that women have a very key role in what type of child is being brought into the world, and how that child is nurtured and how that's going to be. So if you've got self-worth issues, if you've got dynamic issues, then you know they are most certainly going to be projected on the child. So it's more from the point of view, well, you know, listen, you know, you have responsibility too. We have responsibility as a community as well. So it was more from that perspective. And I'll give you an example of this just quickly, because I don't need to go. In Korea, there was this guy, I think he was a minister or something. And somehow he was able to get away with molesting 10,000 women. 10,000 women. Now, what would happen is that these women will they'll be queuing up, and so the women would go in. So this is one of the women telling her story, and then basically just rape her. But then she would come out. There's all these other women lining up. She didn't know that was going to happen. So you would think, well, she'd say, well, don't go in there. So the reason why it was allowed to go on so long is because the shame and the projection by society, if you do speak out. And again, this is another form of suppression, because for a man, out of those 10,000 women, I think all in all, they probably said about 5 came forward, and there was only one who was really, really brave enough that she said, no, she's not having it. And even when she did come forward, they were saying that she wasn't telling the truth. But then she collated evidence, and she had some evidence of that. So
we're talking South Korea.
Yeah, so South Korea. This man also was some of it was in China as well, and I think another country. And you think back, well, how did a man manage to molest 10,000 women and no one say anything? And so I'm just demonstrating how, as a society, we've created this, because those women felt that it was better for them to say nothing than to be scrutinized or ostracized by their community, and so and I'm sure there's many crimes like that take place because people don't feel they can speak, or they're being made to feel ashamed, they're being made to feel it's their fault, they're being made to feel this and this. And you know, and these women will cross the range. They were women from Ivy League universities right down to whatever social status they had. And out of 10,000 women, or 10,000 or 12,000, I can't remember, only really 5 of them come forward. Isn't that sad?
That's ridiculous. Yo, it's like 0.01%.
There's no nothing in it. You can't even measure that.
You can, but it's terrible. That's this. But but I'm mind blown here. Like, what
So yeah,
the
so how can that
heck?
happen? And that happens within communities all around the globe.
So
And
yeah. I assume that that was happening over like a 10,
yeah,
20-year period. That
yeah.
was a very
Well, I
long
say
time. Okay.
ten
Okay.
thousand
Okay.
million.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah. So these type of things say, well, how can that happen? And that's because the suppression and the level of suppression and and it's the self-suppression because no one stopped them from talking really what society did
Yeah.
through how they behave, and
Yeah.
so that suppression in itself prevents us from really clearing and connecting in, and that's what I
Mm,
mean by we suppress ourselves in so many ways by not saying or doing. We're not protecting ourselves, not protecting the children, not, it's just everything's pushed under the carpet and, and,
mm,
and everything
yeah.
has to come up.
And I know from a man's perspective, I could say I've probably got into predicaments or situations where I've remained silent when I could have spoke up and defended myself, and then made to look like the bad person or a weak person, so to speak, when that's not the case. And then I'm having to backpedal to just say, no, 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 I don't agree with that, and get into chaos with people. But you're going to get into chaos with the opposite
Yeah,
energy regardless. But
yeah,
you have to clear. So the fear. Um, one of my best statements today is fear is the greatest
yeah.
enemy of
Well,
humanity. Because of
well, that's why everything's happening because we've been made to fear stuff that you know for no
it's
reason.
natural, it's for
No,
us. Yeah,
it,
yeah,
it
yeah.
just suppresses you. It just keeps you back. So if you can master fear, when you keep mastering fear and overcoming stuff, you will grow and keep growing and keep growing and keep growing. And so in my world, the evolved world, none of that can stand. There can't be any suppression. Everything will be out in the open. So back in the day, it was all telepathy. So you couldn't hide nothing. So yeah, you can't hide nothing.
I can read your thoughts, man. What are you talking about? Yeah, yeah. That's before we was broken out into these modern dialects. But I digress from the history lesson.
Yeah,
Telepathy. We're evolving
yeah,
forward to that again. This evolution of soul and this evolution of earth is because again, we're not living at our true potential to be able to communicate. I remember reading about these things as a young child growing into my adult age. You know, the ancient Africans used to play drums and send messages across distances, and
that's not so ancient. We do
some of
that
the
in the common
elders
era. That's not so old.
and some of the and some of the sage not sages the elders of the community were able to in
Yeah,
meditation go and talk to other
yes.
elders of different communities, and these guys are living
Mm.
hundreds thousands of miles away. And I'm like, wow, so if we could do that, what do we need telephones for?
Well,
But
technology is just
you
a
know
replication or representation of what's within us
us.
anyway. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's a key one there. So and that made me realize as a child growing up, well, if we're capable of doing this, what about school? Why doesn't school teach us how to do this? So why isn't the government promoting us getting to our true potential? Like, what the heck is all of this colonization about? And this is the suppression
Yeah.
challenge. You know, one another phrase I have of the day is you cannot have a wise if there's no
Sorry,
fool.
say that again.
How could you cannot have a
Oh,
wise if there's no
if there's
fool.
no. A
and you
why?
can and you can't no. Let me put it another way. You can't have a fool if
Oh,
there's no wise one, and you
wise.
can't have a
Sorry.
wise one
Yeah.
if there's no fool. Yeah, yeah. And what are you
Mm,
measuring your wisdom
mm,
against?
mm.
Another wise one? Now, how were the two of you wise if there's no fool? So the opposite of the pendulum, that seven axioms of Tahuti, when he said that the pendulum swing to the left as the pendulum swing to the right, I
Mhm,
applied it to everything.
mhm,
Mentally, I looked at every circumstance and situation, and I was like, wow, it's
mhm,
irrefutable. It's absolutely irrefutable. The politics, you've got left wing and right wing, so forward. But in reality, politics is one side of the pendulum, and non-political is the other side of the pendulum. Some people are just completely not into politics at all. They don't care about government. They don't know what prime ministers and ministers are saying. They're not interested in these things, and it's a bore. I'm in the middle of, forget politics. This is government. We live in a society together. We're brothers, sisters, relatives. So how are we supposed to live as a million population in an area if we don't govern
mhm,
our realm
mm.
collectively? So government is the real direction we should be perceiving and walking towards. Politics is the
Mm.
distraction of government. The dogmas and the splitting up and splitting your community into, well, we think this should be the leader and that. No, I can't choose between this group, that group, and that group. Each of them have something that we all need, but they need to work in equilibrium
Mhm.
together. Just like the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere of the brain, they need to work in equilibrium together so that one can come to one's true potential and live what one's capable of. So
Good.
I,
Mm.
you cannot have a fool if there's no wise, and you cannot be wise if there's no fool. One and the other both have to exist at the same time.
Right. So whilst there's okay, so there's governments, etc., and things like that. What I'm kind of like more focused on is having an entirely different system altogether and creating an entirely different
Mm-hmm.
system that is compatible with our growth and development, and that will pull things out. So yes, whilst there's stuff going on right now, that's people need to do that. But in terms of the long term, it's the evolution of the soul and preparing the soul, because we can't use the systems that are here right now. They don't serve us no purpose. So it's better you go in and work on yourself for for a period of time, because what you can change around you by changing yourself is so big. People don't realize the power of it, and so I'm trying to come away from the distraction. Yes, we have to live here and do blah blah blah, but your perception of all that really does change when everything's filtered through the higher mind, and it's not only your perception, your whole reality changes, and the people around you change, and so for me, even those little steps that everybody does, that as a big collective can make a massive change. I'm not saying, people got to go into a cave and sit there and meditating. No. Because I mean, the monks have been doing that for years, and they still,
Thousands of years.
they've been working hard, but they're realizing, boy, this is, you know what I mean. But it's just taking that step inwards and making the change. Damien, Michael, the man in the mirror. And yes,
Yes,
and that and
yes.
yeah,
I'm
and
talking to the man in
that's
the mirror.
what
Yeah.
I'm talking about, making those little changes within that reflect outwards and impact your personal surroundings and beyond. So if everybody's doing that,
Mm-hmm.
you'll be surprised how there can be a shift in consciousness. within an
Mhm.
area, within within the country. But if we spend time battling against systems and things that are not going to improve our condition as a soul, as a being, as a collective consciousness, I wouldn't waste my time.
Mm. Don't waste your time with the things that are not even going to exist when this shift is finished. Yeah, it's distractions. One of the list, other list of distractions, things that you need to ignore on your way to inner development and self development.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Right,
Yeah.
I think.
All right. I don't want to keep you any
Yeah,
further.
so I'm overstaying my time. So yeah, if anyone's interested in the event, you've got the details on the little flyer, haven't you? How they can get in contact with me, or they can get buy a ticket on Eventbrite, or if they need any further information. Yeah.
Assistance for yeah, yeah, man, definitely. So June the 20th, Birmingham
Yeah, so
City.
hi,
Yes, big up
yeah,
heavy.
Highbury Hall.
Highbury Hall, Highbury Hall. All right then. Thank you so much for your time and energy, girl. I have to get the new name right now.
Come, you did quite well earlier.
Asta
There we go.
Ashana.
Astor Shana, thank you.
Give thanks, Asta Ashana, for the energy, the light, knowledge, and the guidance. As I always say, we need guidance in the world because a lot of us have self doubt and a lot of us, have this self suppression, and we don't know how to
Mm.
release and get away from that. So you're very needed in this time.
Right,
Give thanks.
grateful
Thank you
for
for
you
doing that.
allowing me onto your platform.
No, thank you, thank you.
Okay,
Catch you
bye.
anytime. Yes. Yeah, bye for now. Yes. Heavy. Big up, big up, big up, big up. Oh, heavy. Yes, heavy. You come little late, brother. Sorry. Sister's about to leave us now. You're bridging from last week in America.
Oh, was that the guy I spoke with last week? Well, actually, I was meant to try and connect with him to see whether he wanted to do a tandem.
Collaboration.
Yes,
A
yeah,
tandem
so
thing.
whilst we're working with the energy that side, if he had a group of people
Hmm.
that wanted to work with the energy at the same time, that side that is very powerful. And so,
All right then.
but I can try and connect with him another time. What is it called? Heavy mashes, right?
Yeah. Heavy
Mahes.
Mahez.
All right then. Well, I'll connect
Yeah.
with him. I'll send him a message, and then we'll see.
Yes, heavy. So heavy make the link so we can make this happen. Okay, brother, brother. Give thanks for that, man. Yeah, man.
Okay,
Enough love.
see you.
All right. It's a
Okay.
it's a true, true. Yes, heavy. So make sure you make the link for us, heavy, and we'll be in touch. We'll be in touch. Earth, the evolved Earth and soul process of evolution is beginning. People, we're in the middle of a pole shift, so there's a lot happening. It's all about going in and going inside the self and evolving self. Catch you next time.